Hello and welcome to Networking Not Working live here with Simon Phillips. Today's topic is all about how to network at work. Remember, what I'm doing here is running a series of live webinars to give you an overview of the key chapters and research that I've done with nearly 50 of the world's most prolific networkers, both offline and online. A blatant plug now, if you want to get your copy of the book. It's called The Complete Guide to Professional Networking, The Secrets to Online and Offline Success. You can get that at all good, order it from all good bookstores as well as Amazon, and you can even get it digitally. So there you go, blatant plug number one. But let's get on with the topic. And this one actually usually generates a lot of interest because what people assume, quite rightly, is that networking is a critical part in anyone's career development. And there certainly are no exceptions to that, regardless of what you do. And I'm sure actually somebody will think of an example. But in general, whatever you do, you're going to need a team of people to work with. You're going to need a team of people that make it happen. And you're potentially going to either work in or work with organizations. You're going to want to influence people along the way. And you're going to want to build the relationships that are going to enable you to achieve your career goals, whatever they may be. This is not necessarily a webinar all about how to become the chief exec, but it is a webinar that will say, what are the key elements that you need to think about? And by the way, they are pretty simple if you want to build strong networks at work and throughout your career. So where should we start? Well, let's start by recognizing that as well as what we said in an earlier webinar, that we're always networking, we're always having that opportunity to build relationships. The reality is we're always working too. And by that, I mean the opportunities to build relationships that may influence your career at some stage or be involved in some of the activities that you partake in are always available to us, regardless of where we are and what we're doing. So I saw a fantastic tweet this week, and basically it was a story of a man who said basically, don't you just love those arrogant, ignorant people that bash you, if you like, when they're getting off the tube, and then hurl some abuse at you, and then find that they're the person knocking on the door, coming for an interview with you for a job. The reality is that person that you're sitting next to on the tube today could be very influential in your career tomorrow. Now, that's not to say you need to strike up a conversation and make a huge impression on that individual necessarily, but don't forget the fact that wherever we have a conversation, the ripples of that conversation can extend far and wide. Only this week, I'm doing some work with a client where there's been a nagging thought in my head. I know this individual, but I couldn't pinpoint where it was. And actually, in the middle of a conversation just 2 days ago, he said that he used to work in a very specific location, and it suddenly all came back to me. Now, it was only the briefest of conversations I had with him about 7 years ago, but it stuck in my mind. And that's the thing about conversations and relationships. We are always in circumstances where we could have a conversation that may just influence something further down the line. So it's not necessarily about being on our best behavior, but be authentic, be you, be comfortable in your own skin and around other people. So in the book, I talk people through getting started with networking in work, and I talk about the various people and departments that you may come into contact with inside an organization. And it all starts with the receptionist. Some of my favorite people that I've met throughout my career have been receptionists, either where I'm working or at the clients where I'm working. So these are hugely influential people, invariably the loveliest people that you'll bump into all day, and they know a lot about the organization. They know what to do, what not to do, and can be your immediate source of reference, if you like, as you get to know your new organization. So don't neglect the receptionists, don't ignore them. Make them your first friend in the organization, and you'll have a friend that will absolutely be of value to you throughout your time with that business, and sometimes even when you've moved on. Another story from this week, I was in a building from a former client of mine and walked through the door, and there was a huge smile on the receptionist's face, and hello, Simon. And I haven't seen that lady for 5 years. So, you know, these are people that are genuine and invariably the most straightforward of people that you'll meet. There's no real office politics when you're involved and building a relationship with the receptionist. So take advantage of that, and I can assure you, you'll make some amazing friends along the way. So we've got into the building. The receptionist has guided us to where we're going to sit in our new job or our new organization. And then we're likely to bump into the people from HR, human resources. Now, by their the very nature of their job, the people in HR know a lot of people in the organization. They know where the challenges are, where the issues are in terms of the work that's going on at the moment, where business is flowing naturally, and where there are some tricky personalities that you're going to bump into. So make the people in HR your friends, and that will ensure that you have a smooth ride as you get to know the people inside the organization. Moving on from there, I like to talk about colleagues rather than team members. Invariably, with people working in multiple locations across many teams, flexible working and working from home means that you're going to have the opportunity to bump into a lot more people than just the people in your specific team. So think about the workforce as a whole as being your colleagues. Whatever department they're in, whatever activities they're involved in, they're your colleagues. So get to know them, bump into them. You can absolutely utilize the fact that you're new into any organization as an excuse to talk to anyone. And the introduction is simply, hi, I'm Simon. I've just started in marketing. Who knows what the department is? And you will strike up a great conversation. And the key, all the skills that we've learned already, make sure you follow up, try to think about how you might be able to help them, and just keep in touch as you go. So colleagues are, you know, obviously the people that you're going to be networking with, but think about how you can add value. And immediate people around you, is there something that you can do that's just easy for you? So whether that's you're very easy with humor, maybe you're an accomplished cook and want to give some samples out to your teammates. It really doesn't matter, but just be authentic and be you, and people will warm to that instantly. From there, we think about the boss. And the key when we're networking with our networking hat on is how can we do shape our role such that what we're doing is helping our boss achieve their goals, because that's what will get you in their good books. Now, it's not all about you know, sucking up to the boss or anything like that. It's just understanding what their key priorities are and ensuring that the work that you're doing is aligned with that. So in networking terms, of course, we framed that as just helping the people that we meet. So to be the most helpful you possibly can be with your boss, it's ensuring that what you're doing is helping them with their agenda. and then from there they will very likely refer you to their bosses and the other influential people in the organization, because what you've done is made their life easier, and they're obviously going to appreciate that. So after the boss, the last person I'm going to recommend that you add to your network at work is the cleaner. And if you haven't really picked up on all of the different tips that we've covered already today, but also in previous videos, you're probably wondering why I've suggested networking with the cleaner. But for those of you that have been around and have been listening and paying attention, you'll recognize that the cleaner is an obvious person to network with, because in simplistic terms, they are just another human being, and a relationship that you can create, and easy conversations. And guess what? That person, when they go home at night, could be raising thousands of pounds for charity. They could be involved in community activities and looking for somebody with your expertise that's going to really lift a project that they're working on. Who knows what they do when they're not in that building? But even while they are in the building, it's good to know the cleaner, just in case you're working late one night and realize that you've got locked in. So very simplistically, don't judge any book by its cover in and around the buildings and where you work. Every single person that you engage with is a valuable human being in their own right. And if we are going to be tactical about things, then, you know, absolutely everyone that you bump into is a valid member of your networks. So that's the mindset that we need to have when we're networking at work. It's not about identifying specific individuals and then pinning them down and creating fantastic one-to-one relationships with only a few people in the organization. I am going to talk about that in a moment, but it's not our focus, our sole focus when we're networking at work. When we're networking at work, we do cover the broad scope of the organization. We generally have an attitude of wanting to be helpful and wanting to build fun and good relationships with all the people that we bump into. And from there, we can then drill down and make more substantial connections, if you like, with individuals that we're going to highlight as we move forward with the webinar today. So that's what we think of when we're getting started. And the best strategy for building your network is literally to get up on your feet, walk around and introduce yourself. It's an expectation I have when people join any teams that I'm leading, that they will go and do that for themselves. There's absolutely nothing worse than being introduced formally around an organization, because the people that have been introduced to you feel like they're being put on the spot. And you, of course, are now being stared at, if you like, by potentially a whole number of people. So I always encourage the people that work with me to get up on their feet and get around the office and talk to the people that introduce themselves, because then they can have more natural and easy flowing conversations. So that's your best strategy for starting to build your network at work. Thereafter, we have to think about our own PR. Don't be a hidden gem in work. Don't be someone who is working tirelessly and achieving all sorts of things, but nobody else knows about it. It is important, if you want to establish your career in any particular organization, that people know the value of the work that you're working on. So be careful to raise your profile, if you like, and ensure that key people in your area and your line of work know what you're doing and know what you're achieving along the way. And that's really, sometimes it's about blowing your own trumpet, as we say here in the UK, because other people are busy. they don't necessarily have the time to always reflect and understand the activities that we're working on. So take some time out and ensure that people know what you're doing. And that's effectively just like a status update online in Facebook and LinkedIn and the other online social networks. Make sure you're thinking that way when we're in a work environment. So how do they know that you've just completed an amazing paper, excuse me, that's going to transform the way one part of the organization works? If you don't tell them, it's very likely that they won't know, and then it will just become the norm in terms of the way the business operates. And then organizationally, the knowledge will be lost as to who did that work, and you won't get the credit. So make sure that you are getting out and about and providing status updates and ensuring that the work that you're doing is being recognized. From there, you might want to then start to think about, how do I develop the profile that is seen as someone who's a rising star in this organization? Or if you're currently in the middle zone of the organization, how are you going to make that next step forward? And I do a lot of mentoring with people who are at that senior management level, trying to break through what they perceive to be glass ceilings. You know, they're doing great work. They're very good managers of the teams, but they're not necessarily breaking through and being perceived to be leadership potential in their organizations. So how do you do that? Well, one of my favorite authors, John Maxwell, says that leadership is a measure of influence. So what we're going to start to think about now is strategic networking. Well, who are the key people that will have influence over my advancement inside this organization? And how can I ensure that the work that I'm doing is both understood by them and is valued by them? So what we have to do now, once we've identified those key stakeholders, is start to build deeper relationships. And you can only ever do that with integrity. And what we're thinking about is, what's my personal brand? How do these key people talk about me when I'm not there? Now, for those of you who know me listening in on this, I don't want any answers on a postcard about this one, about what you're thinking about me when I'm not there. But do think about this seriously. The people who are going to be influential in your career advancement, how can you shape the way that they think about you? Is it about making sure everything you do is aligned with their goals? Is it about ensuring simply that they recognize the value you're adding on a day-to-day basis? So have longer conversations with them, book one-to-one meetings with them to give them an update and to check in with them, just, you know, see how they're doing, as well as giving them an update about what you're doing. And you know, sometimes what we're talking about now, of course, are sometimes the very busiest people inside the organization. Their diaries are crammed full. So having a strategy in mind ensures that even if you just bump into them, and some of the best conversations I've ever had inside organizations have been in the corridors, on the way to the car park, in the lift. So, but those have been good conversations because I have had, I've done some thinking in advance. So think about, what is it that you might want to say that to influence these key people in your favor, if you like. So that's what we're doing when we're thinking about growing our influence inside an organization. Outside an organization, influencing the industry is more about having a point of view. So what do you think about the industry that you work in? What do you think could be done better? Where are the opportunities for improvement? What is it that you think, if people paid attention, that you could influence to move in a different direction, which would improve the way that product or service was positioned, either in the marketplace or in the public's mind, if you're working in public service. So you need to think through what it is that you can get on a campaign about it, if you like. If you want to influence the industry, then you need to have something new to say. And it's not always about having something unique to say. It's just being the person that is known for talking about the things that need to be discussed. So I'm aware that that might sound a little bit wordy. So what I'm trying to say there is, you may passionately believe, let me give a real example. You may passionately believe that all muffins need to have chocolate on them. Okay, that might be your belief, and if you went out for dinner with friends, you would absolutely be able to convince them why that was the case. Now, there may be hundreds of people who believe that in the same industry, but are they talking about it? Are they sharing their thoughts? Are they broadcasting information that lets others know that that is a very appropriate way to be thinking about developing the muffin industry? Who knows? But let's assume that they're not. So they may well think it, they may well be doing it in their business, but if you want to influence the industry of chocolate muffin makers, then you need to be the one who's posting pictures, writing articles, interviewing people about muffins and why chocolate is better than, I don't know, fruit muffins. So by just being more prolific, if you like, in the public space, what you're doing is capturing people's attention. So all those people who are busy ferrying away in the background, they're not necessarily grabbing anybody's attention. So they're not pulling people into either their business or their part of the industry, if you like. What you're going to do, if you think about this carefully, is start to draw people into your message. Now, it may be that you have a very particular niche. Maybe it's dark chocolate with white chocolate shavings on the top. Who knows? But by exploring it, engaging with people around your message, talking to others about what they're doing, you are going to be perceived as someone who knows a lot about what you're talking about, has connections with some of the key people in the industry, knows what all the issues are, and has lots of experience in making that happen. So just by being a little bit more public and meeting up with your peers in the industry, your profile is going to rise almost exponentially, simply because not everybody is out there talking about it and highlighting to people the value of your industry. So if there are opportunities to talk at conferences, to attend seminars, to go to exhibitions if you have a particular product, it doesn't really matter whether it's a product or a service that you're in the business of. How well do people know you in that business? And how well do the people who don't really know the industry very well, how well do those others understand your business? The importance of that, of course, is, let's say I'm a lawyer and I don't really understand much about the chocolate muffin business, but I can, either via a blog or a talk that I hear that you're giving, I suddenly get it, I thoroughly understand it. And now, of course, that same lawyer may have 101 connections that they want to share their new knowledge with. And your profile, your influence has just extended massively. So when you see people talking about various expertise on LinkedIn and Twitter, now maybe you can understand the value of that and start to think about what you can do to enhance your business. And if you're in an employed situation, enhance your reputation in your industry. All of which, of course, will ensure that your job prospects, should you choose to follow a more traditional career trajectory, are going to be enhanced. So I've encountered a lot of recruiters over the last 18 months through various talks and activities I've been involved in, and almost all of them now use social media to do their research on the individuals that they want to approach, either for hiring or to put forward for interviews. And so what is your social media profile like? Is it consistent? Is it professional? Does it say to people exactly, if you like, the phrase that has become popular again in the UK is, does it say what it does on the tin? So does your social media profile reflect your expertise, your skills, and your degree of influence in your area of expertise? So have a quick review and just check that, because it's important that we're not digging our well when we're thirsty, and that we've done it already. Now, I mentioned that in an earlier webinar, because again, another thing I've noticed when I've been in and around some of these recruiting agencies is that a lot of people suddenly become much more prolific in networking terms when they know they're going to lose their job. And that's okay if you're in that situation right now and haven't necessarily been networking effectively in recent times. It's okay to make a start. We've all got to start somewhere. But what I would say is, don't leave it next time until you're just about to be out of a job before you start networking again. Make this a habit. We're always building relationships. We're always looking for people that we can support and help in their careers. And the reciprocal nature of networking will ensure that you will get payback on that, if you like, in many unforeseen ways. So think about that carefully. Start to build your profile and your influence, whether it's within your own organization or externally, and you will find that your career will run quite smoothly over its whole trajectory. There are bound to be some bumps, and that's when our support networks and our close friends and family can really support us. But if we think carefully, think strategically about how we want to go about building our networks, I can guarantee you they will sustain you for the whole of your life. Okay, I just wanted to finish off with a quick example of someone that I mentioned in the book, a good friend of mine, Jerry Hopkins, who I've known him since 1979 when I was about 2. Not very good at maths. Jerry and I have known each other since we started at Barry Boys Comprehensive School. And the reason why I put Jerry in the book is because he's just a great example of someone who builds effortless relationships. And that's the mindset that we need to have when we're joining a new organization or we're trying to advance our career and build our networks. Just have easy conversations with people. Don't be too hung up on who are the people I need to impress. If you're easy and relaxed with everybody that you meet, whether they're the chief exec or the cleaner or the receptionist or the accountants, it doesn't really matter. They are all human beings. They're all people who like to sit down and watch their favorite sport on a Saturday. So just treat them in that way and find out, be curious about what they're doing. You never know when you're in an organization when it's going to be, you're going to find or trip over something that will absolutely be of huge value to somebody else in potentially a remote part of the business. So get to know everyone. And basically what you will do then is you will become the person that other people come to be referred inside the organization. And once you're in that type of role, or you're seen in that way, then again, your networks will start to grow rapidly. Okay, that's it for this week. Next week, we're going to talk all about something I call the networking scorecard, because as I say in the book, it's not about what we count. It's about understanding what actually counts when we're networking. And that's what we're going to explore next week. And just one quick tip, it's not about the number of business cards that we collect. Okay, have a great week. Happy networking. And if you have any comments or any thoughts or anything you'd like to share, this video will be on Facebook all week. Put your comments below, and I'll share those. Any great comments that are going to help others, I typically share on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you have any thoughts, by all means share them, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.